On the same day with the USA Championships kicked off in Eugene, Oregon, Michael Johnson sat down with the Ready, Set, Go podcast to do an interview. And this one, they actually asked him the hard questions, because the name Grand Slam track, like when you say those words out loud, it sends shockwaves throughout the track and field community. First, because they gave us some of the most entertaining track meets that we've ever seen, certainly on American soil. Like, that is true. But the other thing that's also true is that there's been a lot of controversy around the league. When we say controversy, a lot of it comes down to money. Just being honest. And now, Michael Johnson sat down to address the money situation, because a lot of people speculate about it, and he probably addressed it more clearly than anybody could have expected. He talked about the league, the need for capital. He talked about an investor who pulled out early in the season. That's very important, because after their first competition in Kingston, Jamaica, they knew that their investment situation had significantly changed. But they continued on with the season and continued looking for investors. And ultimately, when it came to LA 2028, they chose to shut things down because they needed to fix the money situation in order to go forward. All of this is going to inspire a lot of chatter across the internet. Some of that chatter occurred right in the comment section of the Ready, Set, Go podcast, because trust me, I was reading the comments. But ultimately, it's more than that, because Grand Slam track, it happened. It's not just an idea anymore. We saw it with our own eyes. And the real question is, will we get to see it again? So that is what I'm here to talk about. Not just Ready, Set, Go's podcast, not just what Michael Johnson said, but what does it all really mean? Because track and field, and he addressed this on the show, the sport itself has been in some form of crisis. Like, I think it was Justin Gatlin who said it himself, that we all know that track and field as a sport needs a facelift. Noah Lyles said, the sport doesn't need to be saved, but we do need help. Everybody knows that where we are isn't where we need to stay. But how do we move forward? And Michael Johnson dared to change the narrative. He invested real money, his own money, because people who call what his league has become grand scam track, like, it might sound cute and it might even make for a good thumbnail, but it's just not accurate. And the reason why we know it isn't is because he invested his own money. If he was a scam artists do not set themselves up for failure. They run off with money and leave everybody else high and dry. That is not this situation. But if money has become a problem, I wanted to understand a little bit more deeply why it is an issue. And in their interview, Michael Johnson first talks it out with Justin Gatlin. They talk about how much money it takes to put on these events. You put the prize money on one end of the shelf, because they had more prize money that they were going to offer than anything else we've ever seen in pro track and field. And then you also look at all the other venue costs and broadcast costs that it takes to actually put on the event. When you add up all the money, you do realize that $30 million does sound about right for what it was going to take to get them through a year. And $30 million does sound like $30 million. But at the end of the day, Grand Slam track is actually not in the track and field business. They are in the entertainment business. And that's where track and field has struggled. Because nothing that we actually do in the sport functions as viable entertainment. Not only does it not function that way, it was never set up to be that. Just think about it for a moment. When I say the term track and field meet, especially when I say it in America, what do you normally think about? You probably think about a high school meet that probably lasts for 6, 7, or 8 hours. Like, that thing just goes and goes and goes. The college meets aren't much better. Those things can still last all day long. You have heats on top of heats on top of heats, a bunch of slow people running before we finally get to see some fast people. The races really don't have much consequence. I mean, yes, there'll be winners and losers, but who cares? Because it's all about championships anyway. In high school, we think about state championships, even national championships. In college, it's the same thing. We have conference and national championships. All these other races are just practices. They don't mean anything. And when you get to the pro level, it's all about worlds and the Olympics. And the only way you get there is you got to go through a national trial if you're American. That's it. Everything else doesn't matter. The races have no stakes. Entertainment requires you to hold people's attention. You first have to get it, then you have to hold it. And track and field has been in a very unique place. Because when we say the sport track and field, we're talking about so many different events. And everything we've done in the sport has been designed to copy the Olympic framework. The Olympics sells perfectly fine as a television product because people feel like they understand it. It's the best in the world competing for supremacy, and it's once every 4 years, which makes it novel. The world championships are the same thing being copycatted, just to a lesser degree, because the track world pays attention, but the rest of the world doesn't really take it seriously. They just say, call me again for the next Olympics. If you could basically ignore the track and field calendar for 3 years straight, like if you're an athlete, you could just skip over all the rest of it. Pop up during the Olympic Games. Like, somehow, get on your national team and show up to the games itself. Perform well. And you could go down as one of the greats, especially if you do it in multiple Olympics. No one cares what you did in the margins. The games is what matters. Again, that is the general perception. For those who may not understand it, I'm going to go over this part again. Grand Slam track had a vision, and the vision was to change some of this, not to get away from the Olympics and Worlds for what they are, but to have separate events during the track and field calendar, specifically focusing on the track side, and those events would be called Grand Slams for a reason, because in other sports, specifically tennis, they have Grand Slams. And when you have the Grand Slam model, or in golf they have majors, those events as pro events are the ones that everybody focuses on. The top athletes want to show up there, and if they win a slam, that actually means something. It means something for their bank account, and it means something for the sport. The slams are the product. Doesn't mean there aren't other events going on, other tennis tournaments, like all that stuff other happens. But in track and field, basically you would turn all the rest of the pro circuit into, the precursor for the slams. The pros, the real ones, the ones at the top of their game, they want to be competing on that stage like it actually matters. So the idea of having 4 slams was to get to 4 high leverage moments around the calendar. And it sounds great in theory till you realize that everything in the sport hasn't been about that for a long time. It's all been about training for one moment, specifically the Olympic Games, and the idea that we're going to run fast multiple times. And even the way contracts are structured aren't set up for athletes to run fast multiple times. The contracts focus on Worlds and Olympics above all else. You could do a bunch of other good things, but if you fail in those moments, the feeling is that you're not advancing the brand much at all. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, and if you really want to know what's going on with the fastest athletes in the world, then you are in the right place. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. If you consider that was the true vision for Grand Slam track, I do believe that if they had succeeded, and when I say succeeded, I mean even in the first year, had gotten almost all of the top athletes, barring injury, to show up to the slams, I think the track and field world would have paid even more attention. I think that's safe to say. The issue is that they were doing slams, where Julian Alfred might be running somewhere else in the world at the exact same time, or a Sharika Jackson, or even a Sha'Carri Richardson popping up in Tokyo, but not at a slam, or showing up to a slam and not running while she's there. Again, in her case, there have been some injuries. But fundamentally speaking, if this is what we're doing, pro track, for it to go forward, remember, you are in the entertainment business. And when it comes to the business of track, everything that we do really isn't profitable. It's the reason why USA Track and Field, Let'sRun.com did an article, more or less got rid of their Road to LA, like their Road to LA tour and all of the events that they had been sponsoring. Because the amount of money they put out for how much money actually comes back, like the math just wasn't mathing, so they just kind of got rid of it, especially when Grand Slam track popped onto the scene. Why is track not profitable? That's the real question. Because trust me, I'm going to give you some solutions in this video. Because people have always, sometimes when I get on these topics, they feel like I'm just complaining. I'm not just complaining. I spend a lot of time thinking about solutions. So let's go there. The nature of the problem that we're trying to solve is that in track and field, for the longest time, every track meet that we have on the pro circuit, again, I'm talking about the pro circuit right now, generally tries to function like a buffet. When I say it's a buffet, I'm saying that as opposed to a restaurant that sells actual meals on the menu. When you have a buffet, you have a whole bunch of different types of food and you cook large amounts of it. When you put the food out, you don't know if people are going to eat everything. As a matter of fact, nobody does. They walk around and see what they like and what they don't like. And the things they do, they put some of it on the plate, not even all of it. So the things that sell, the things that people like the most, you might be able to sell most of that, but not all of it. You still have to throw some food away. Then you have other dishes that you make that nobody really wants. Maybe 1 or 2 people come into the restaurant and like it. The only way you make money from a buffet is you need people to pay so much money at the gate in order for the amount of food that you're selling to still be profitable. Because a lot of it's going to get thrown away. So you kind of have to pay for the food that's being thrown away with the high ticket price. And track and field has been trying to sell a whole bunch of events like a buffet. Because let's be honest, people don't actually like all the events. They don't want to consume it all. They may like the sprints, but not the throws. They might like distance events and nothing else. They might even love the jumps, but nothing else. But you're trying to sell all of it in one package. That's why the meets are way too long and people don't actually find interest in all of it. Because there's a lack of stakes, and for that matter, they don't even like consuming everything that's on the plate. However, if you were to sell track and field like a meal, you would have to restructure the package. Because when you go to a restaurant and order a meal, they cook it and it comes to you. You may see what ingredients are in there, but they prepare it how they want to prepare it. Put it on the plate and then you eat all of it. That way you can control how much food you're throwing away. Because you can leave things in the freezer and preserve them until you actually got to go cook it. In a buffet, you cook all of it, and some of the stuff is going to have to spoil, some of it's going to have to get thrown out. It just is what it is. Track and field has been throwing out way too much food. And as a result, by throwing out events that people don't consume, the sport is not profitable. I'm not going to go over 20 million numbers. I'm going to maybe try to link an article or two into this video in the description so that you can read for yourself. But take it my word for it. Nothing we've been doing is profitable. Grand Slam Track spent a whole bunch of money, $30 million with the plan for 1 year. And they know they have to make everybody whole. Pay out the athletes, pay the vendors before they can close the book on 2025 to get to 2026. But I am here to say, we had better hope that Grand Slam Track figures this out. Rooting against Grand Slam Track is not in anybody's best interest, and here is why. Not only are they the only viable option that we have right now that's trying to do something new, they actually probably have the closest model to something that might actually work, because they tried to create something that was a consumable meal. That is very important. When it comes to solutions, path forward for track and field, for the record, I'm addressing all of it. There's only two ways to do it. One is an individualized model, and Grand Slam Track has some version of it, but you still have to tie it all together and make a meal. And the other is a team-based model. When I say team-based, they're the percentage of the track community that understands the concept, but nobody's ever seen it function. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time, dragging it through. But the individualized model is where you group together events. This is what we've been doing for a long time. Create fields, put them out there, roll the heats out there, like in front, like men's 100, women's 100, men's 200, women's 200, women's 400 hurdles, whatever it is you're going to sell. And once you put all these events out there, you expect people to pay to watch it. You expect them to broadcast it, people watch it on a stream. And again, how's this been working for us? Because when Worlds and Olympics are all that matters, all these races are just scrimmages. There might be high quality scrimmages, but they lack stakes. Grand Slam Track was trying to create stakes around an individualized competition and figure out how to package it together where someone could sit down and consume all of it. That way you don't end up wasting a whole bunch. That said, it was very expensive, the package they came with. A team-based model would look something more like the following. Because we haven't really seen it function at the pro level, I'm going to dial it back to the NCAA to give you more of a picture. In NCAA track and field, we actually have teams. They actually exist. And when you see a conference championship meet, the teams bring their roster and assemble in a bunch of different events, and they go out there to score points. That's team track and field. When you have a relay meet, where teams select relays and they go out there and compete, and they compete to win something, again, that's pretty clearly team track and field. And the epitome of that we got as a taste on the world stage might be maybe the Penn relays or the world relays, specifically when they would do USA versus the world inside the Penn relays. All of that is team track and field coming back to you. What that would look like as a pro product is you're going to have to borrow from different sources. You take a little bit of what they do in college from the conference championship model. You might even have to borrow a little bit from a dual meet in college, like the way it looked for teams to actually face off and how you score it to make every single finish, like every person who finishes, even if you get 8th place, of consequence to the team. We can't just focus on the top 3 anymore because that kind of erases the team element. And on top of that, you're going to probably have to work relays in and so on, and then button it down. Get those meets to a short enough framework. 3 hours at maximum, probably even want to get closer to 2 hours if you really want to get in and get out and make it a sport, like a sporting product someone could consume, especially from TV. That's never been done before, not with real teams, because it would only work if you could get the best athletes in the world to want to compete in that league. Either of these models, the team model where winning a championship as a team actually mattered, so you came in and you competed hard in multiple races and multiple meets, scoring points because this is what matters. We're not just warming up for Worlds anymore. It's, hey, imagine Noah Lyles and Kashane Thompson going at it in a league event, like a professional track event, where people want to see Kashane and they want to see Noah. They might even want to see Kenny B get in that race. But ultimately, they need to be running for something, running like it matters. When they do an interview, they tell you that it matters. They want to win this championship. Losing this race means their team might get knocked out of the playoffs. Like, if you lived in that world, people would start to care. And by butting it, like, if you could, shorten it down, it actually would make it easier to appreciate the other events. Because now you can blend them together where you're rooting for your team. And if Noah Lyles is your favorite athlete, then you probably just root for the team he's on. That means when a shot putter shows up on that team, you might actually pay attention to the points, because you want to see Noah Lyles in the championship, and he can't get there without his team. You see where I'm going with this? He might be the most valuable player on that team, hypothetically, but it doesn't make him the only one. You can't win by yourself. All of that is a team framework. And Grand Slam track is a version of an individualized framework. Like, it's a version of it. Again, the Diamond League has a final. They do. That's an individualized framework. The difference is the Diamond League feeds into Worlds. So as a result, they're not separate entities. The number one problem with everything that I just said is when you actually look at the numbers of the money that flows in track and field, it gets pretty bleak. Because no matter what you do, even if you achieve, we just don't compete enough in our sport to make it financially viable on the pro circuit. That is the real uphill battle. Grand Slam track tried to start fixing it by doing multiple day events, because that way you could sell multiple track and field products. But at the end of the day, even if you use, conservative money estimates that would be successful, take how much money they make in the NFL, how much TV revenue they actually share from team to team, think about how many games those teams actually play, and then break that money up team for team and game for game. Consider that one Grand Slam track event, like one meet, might be equivalent of one football game in TV revenue. And when I broke down and that's if everything was thriving. But let's be honest, it's not going to be football money, not American football money in the NFL. I did the math. Hey, just take my word for it. Hey, the numbers are just an approximation. They're not exact in any way. But let's just assume that you could get $3 million worth of a TV revenue deal for one slam event. $3 million for one. So if you're going to do 4 slams, that's $12 million in a TV deal, like revenue that you could get back from, whoever the broadcast partner was. Even if you'd got $12 million, that's actually not that much money. Remember, we just found out that the cost of the league, was $30 million. See the problem? The idea, like the one thing that Michael Johnson said in this interview that cannot be understated, he talked about wanting to treat the athletes right and wanting to pay them what they deserve. I totally understand that track and field has this real issue that caught us between a rock and a hard place. We have athletes that are incredibly talented, work incredibly hard, and dedicate their lives to the sport. The performances are proof of that. But when you talk about being in the entertainment business, you don't get paid what you're worth. You get paid what you negotiate. You really get paid off of the value that you can bring back. Sorry, in track and field right now, it's really hard for the athletes to actually provide value that's commodifiable. Again, a lot of the prize money and things that travel, like in the sport currently, a lot of it is really more charity than it is value. I know that sounds offensive, but I'm being real. People are not being paid what they're worth. They're being paid whatever they can negotiate. That's it. And we kind of have a world where most of the track and field athletes get almost nothing. It's the reason why we have unattached athletes who have no sponsors at all, pulling up to the USAs and competing and even making finals. These people don't make money from track and field. They spend money to compete in track and field. Then you have college and high school athletes who are supported by that system. They don't make money at all, but they're supported by a system that, student athletes. They're not pros. They're not even a little bit. Even the ones who are getting NIL deals, those deals aren't worth a lot of money. Just take it from me. It is not life-changing money by any stretch of the imagination, part-time job money at best. Again, for most kids. And then you move off of that to the actual pros. They're not all created equal. But what ended up happening is when you think of any professional track and field structure, if we were going to set salaries that were based on real values based on TV deals and what we could actually make, I'm sorry to tell you that the split comes where the top rung of athletes, the Noah Lyles, Sha'Carri Richardson, perhaps even a Gabby Thomas or someone like that, they've priced themselves out of the market. Just being real, because of the way the system is set up. So you have people getting nothing on one end, people getting peanuts in the middle, and then you have people who are priced all the way out of the market. Because no matter how you do it, let's say, when it comes to, revenue that you could spend, let's say you could realistically put up $1.5 million of prize money for one Grand Slam, and they were going to do 4 across the year. You might be able to realistically do that. Grand Slam, for the record, wanted to put up much more than that. They wanted to put up closer to $3 million. But regardless, $1.5 million, when you divide it out for everybody, you end up with a situation where some of the athletes are now priced out of the market. Because those at the bottom, they're happy to get anything. Those in the middle will accept the peanuts, or even something that's better than peanuts, to be real. But then the ones at the top, they say, I'm better than this. Because the current model allows them to get appearance fees and so on and so forth, where almost everybody else gets nothing, and then they can get paid to show up. So until we fix that, where you have those who are priced out of the market on one end, they can extract appearance fees and everything that goes along with that. I mean, the prize money itself in Diamond League really isn't all that relevant to them. Just being honest, the appearance might be worth more than that to the top athletes. Like, if that's the situation, you can't build anything functional as a league until we get everybody going in the same direction. Because whether we like it or not, people really aren't going to pay to watch a 100-meter dash race, specifically in America, if you don't have all of the men who have the medals on the world stage competing. Grand Slam track this year had some of those men. But the problem is that the sport doesn't even care that much about how fast you've gone or what medals you have if they're not gold. And you kind of have to be the hot thing at the moment. In 2025 in sprinting, using that as an example, Noah Lyles was the hot thing. Coming off of the Olympics and the World Championships in 2023, his profile is very different than everybody else. He is an example of an athlete who clearly got priced out of the market. And I'm going to land the plane here. When you look at how leagues actually form and how they survive, you're going to need athletes to buy into a situation that's bigger than them. And the top athletes we have, they know that if Grand Slam track is really successful, that success will likely not come while they're competing in it. They'd be building something for a new generation. So it's going to take some self-sacrifice. In the WNBA, we had women who played for less than $100,000 for a very long time. They might have been MVPs and the best ones in the league. But they had to play for that amount and be committed to playing for less than that. Because that's just what the league was going to pay them. It just is what it is. Yeah, salaries are climbing now for a whole bunch of different reasons. But it still gives you a framework of, can you get the best athletes in the world to agree to help build something when it's not in its full effect? Grand Slam track set out to accomplish something very grand. I think that's the word. And we had better hope that they actually get to that vision, because they're closer than anybody else has ever gotten to actually accomplishing it. But they're not going to be able to do it on their own, because track and field is a sport. We deserve to have nice things too. However, it's going to be really hard for us to afford it if we price ourselves out of the market. In the sport of track and field, race day is honestly the easy part, because all of the real work gets put in when nobody is watching. When you wear every day is training day gear, you can let the whole world know that your success in competition is not an accident. Order yours at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below, and it always comes with free shipping. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.